Hi, this is Mina, owner of Lamina Beauty. Today's video is going to be about controlling your words um, and the ability, showing you and letting you know that you have the ability to control your words. Controlling your words, okay, especially in an emotionally charged situation, is not easy. I'm here to tell you, yes, it is easy, but of course, it's not. Controlling your words takes awareness and practice and discipline. I'm going to start off with a few tips. I'm going to name ones I have before I explain more in depth. I got manage your emotional state, surround yourself with thoughtful speakers. If you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Think before you speak. What would Jesus do? Decide what kind of person you want to be in the interaction and reflect and learn from your past mistakes. So the reason I'm doing this video, or I'm even pushing this video out before certain other ones, is because I recently just got into an interaction where I didn't choose the best of words to say. And I definitely had the option. I stopped and took some of these tips that I have on the paper. I wrote them down. I put them, in my brain. And I used them, and I thought to apply them at first, and it didn't necessarily go that way. Now I could have went all the way left. It just swerved off the road a little bit. It wasn't too crazy. But we got number one, managing your emotional state. So everything starts spiritually, of course, first. So inevitably everything that comes out of you started from within you. So you must learn to manage it because it's yourself. So make sure you're aligned and your stress is managed, because usually out of the norm characteristics are from overstimulation. And so, of course, you got all the basic, breathing and ashwagandha and journaling and meditation and therapy, of course, but you have to get to the root. And I'm going to mention God, of course, because the Lord is omnipresent and He will always be there for you. And you can always find a reason or a way to relate to the word. I got number two, surround yourself with thoughtful speakers. Now, if you can't find a thoughtful speaker in person, the internet is at our fingertips, of course, these days. And surrounding yourself with thoughtful speakers can be motivation online. Don't rule out motivation or the motivational speakers that you think are corny or just whatever. Keep digging, keep finding people that fit your narrative or your way of life or the person you want to be like. That's how you manifest a whole different life in general. When you're watching these shows, some shows, like for instance, I watch The Housewives often, right? I take notes of people who get their point across without wrath, or people who just simply know when to walk away, which brings me into my third point, right? If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. We've all heard that, right? But applying it is a whole nother thing, especially after the stab, after the digestion of the insult, after we feel, keyword feel, managing, back to number one, managing those emotions. After we feel that we've been disrespected or perceived wrong. Number three is hard, right? If you don't have anything to say, don't say it at all. But what I always seem to remember, I was told this a long time ago, is that you can always add, but you can't take away. Think before you speak and pause, which is actually my fourth point. My fourth point is think before you speak. There is no rush. There's no need to win. Vengeance is the Lord's, of course. Take yourself out of your shell and ask yourself what is actually happening. Ask yourself, is this true? Ask yourself, is this necessary? Is this kind? Silence is often more powerful than a reactive comment anyways. So you must stay vibrating high. Jesus would choose the high road. Jesus would choose silence. And what there are times where Jesus would choose to knock over some tables, of course, right? Amen. But you ultimately need to be choosing what would Jesus do. I know we're not Jesus, you're not Jesus, I'm not Jesus, but inevitably we should be trying to strive more to be like Jesus. That's the whole point in life, right? Is to try to be more kind, try to be more like Jesus and spread the good word. Um, which that was my fifth point is what would Jesus do, okay? My sixth point would be it would tie in with number 4, thinking before you speak. Okay, got it. Now decide what kind of person you want to be in the interaction. You want to be crazy loud, like a badgering bat, or you want to be a wise, turned around owl, Only fools enjoy a quarrel. It is written. You're gonna have to go look it up for yourself. Thank you, because I can't remember off the top of my head. But only fools enjoy a quarrel, a battle. Okay. My last point, and might be my most important point, number 7, is to reflect and to learn. All progress is still progress. All right. Reflect and learn from your past triggers, your past tempers, your past interactions, because one thing the devil knows about you is your patterns. He's not omnipresent like the Lord, so he must study your patterns. He must know your triggers. And he's not studying for love. He's not. The devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So, beat him, study yourself, reflect on yourself, learn, grow, and glow. The reason I say studying and reflecting is the most important is because, obviously, if they say history repeats itself if you don't remember it. So, although it may be cringy, or you may not think it's important, or you may think you were justified in the past situations, if you're trying to change something, you're trying to change it. It doesn't really matter why. So make sure you're paying attention to your triggers and to certain patterns, because you will be tested on it. And it's not going to be just warning after warning. Sometimes it's going to be a pop quiz. Sometimes it's going to be after something crazy just happened. They say when it rains, it pours. I try not to say that, but sometimes it's true. So make sure, I could literally go all the way back to point 1. Which point 1 was like managing your emotional state, right? It needs to start with you. You need to be transformed from the renewing of your mind, and just blame yourself. I'm not saying you have to always, because there are going to be times where you need to step up for yourself. You have a mouth for a reason, speak, but just make sure you come out on the other side being the person you're called to be. Point 5, what would Jesus do? Point 4, think before you speak. And 6, decide what kind of person you want to be in the interaction. And it all starts with you. And you have the power with your words, your anything, your words, your body, whatever. Most likely you can control that. You can't control your environment. You can't control what other people do or what other people say or how other people move, okay? But one thing you can control for sure is the words that come out of your mouth. And even if you wanted to say 3 paragraphs and you only said 2 sentences, give yourself some grace, give yourself some mercy. Okay, you're taking, you're making bigger progress. Just make sure that you know that these people aren't supposed to know you. They aren't supposed to understand you. You're called to be different. You're called to stand out. That's just how it goes. And only person that really knows your heart is going to be Jesus. So it doesn't, inevitably, all the words you can say all you want. If a person is made up in their mind what they're going to be to you, how they're going to be, or whatever, because usually they're not even thinking, right? Because it's not even that personal, right? But, you know, just control yourself and know that it's not even about you. And just control yourself. I mean, I can't say enough, right? Like, it doesn't matter how many words you want to say or anything. Just make sure You have control over what you can. And I wish I knew that prayer off the top of my head that people always say, but it's like something about asking God to control the things you can change and the wisdom to know the difference between the two. Someone knows what I'm talking about, but something like that. Just if there is a real problem, if there is a real problem and it is truly bothering you and you can't seem to grasp control of that in a whole, that might be the devil's plan as well. You're not meant to spend all your time on trying to be relatable to certain people or trying to get through to certain people or trying to be powerful over certain people when silence sometimes is the best and most powerful move, because usually the opponent, whoever, because no one's my opponent, okay? The only person that's anyone's enemy is the devil, right? But usually the other person will reveal their upper hands simply by you being quiet. And you never want to seem out of control, because once you do lose control, you're allowing something else to take over your body. If you're losing control of your own body, something else is going to be controlling you. You don't know what that entity, spirit, whatever is going to do, say, move. And so that's why some people don't even choose to drink around certain people. You know what I'm saying? Because you never know when that spirit wants to attack and give you the spirit of anger, give you the spirit of jealousy, give you the spirit of, too much ego, whatever. So you must truly be careful and learn to control your words. And hopefully I gave you some good tips. That was 7 tips about how to control your words. And I'm letting you know that you do have the ability to control your words. And so hopefully you learned something. Thanks for watching. Bye now.